I have a crazy story about RFK actually.
Mm.
So so I've testified in court. I was a key witness in the case against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. In 2024 due to ballot fraud.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because his campaign was engaging in fraudulent practices to get signatures, and one of the canvassers happened to approach me at a subway station. I didn't know it was his campaign,
Oh my
and he
God.
tried to get me to sign. And basically, I asked, "Well, who's this candidate?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just someone running for president." I'm like, "Okay, cool, but who is it?" And he told me Kevin J. Madonna. He didn't tell me the name. And I was like, well, that's weird. I would know someone running for president that could have the money, to for a petitioning drive. That's a very expensive thing to do. So I said, oh, because this was during the general election,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in 2024. So I was like, yeah, I'm supporting the Democratic nominee. But I said, listen, go democracy. I support democracy. I'm not going to sign it because I can't sign it. But like I appreciate, you being involved. But then, I couldn't get the thought out of my mind. Like, this is really weird. So we both got into the subway car, and this was in Park Slope in Brooklyn. And I Googled this Kevin J. Madonna. Nothing came up about running for president. But then when I scrolled, he was like a law partner or connected to RFK Jr. And I was like, wait a second. Could this kid let me check. Let me check. So I go up to him in the subway car and I said, hey, who did you say this was for again? It's like, oh, Kevin J. Madonna. It's like, are you sure it's not for RFK Jr.? And he's like, no, no, it's not. It's Kevin J. Madonna. And his clipboard for the signatures, it was covered. He had folded it so you couldn't see the candidate. So I literally grabbed the clipboard and I'm like, let me see. I grabbed the clipboard and I open it, and in fact, it is for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for president. And if he would have told me that up front, I wouldn't have been that upset. I'm like, it's democracy. I would
Mm-hmm.
support, that he is engaging in the democratic process. But the fact that he lied, it's fraud, it's illegal, and it's literally disgusting. So I got upset and I said, hey, it's like, you lied to me. He's like, yeah, it's fucked up. I'm like, no, yes, it's fucked up. It is. And then I told him, why did you lie to me? And he said, they told me to lie.
What?
Yeah, so I was actually on my way to play for a soccer game that I was playing in, and I was upset, so I just tweeted out the interaction and went to my soccer game, forgot about it, and then the tweet blew up, and I get reporters in my DMs, and then the National Democratic Party called me, and then the New York Times called the office that I worked at for a state senator at the time,
Oh my
and I
God.
became yeah, they did an affidavit, and I became well, they asked me to do an affidavit. It's like, would you be willing to just literally say what happened? I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm very upset. This is fraud. Apparently this had been happening. The New York Times contacted me because they've been doing this, and they've been doing it in Park Slope, Brooklyn, which, if anyone knows, Park Slope, Brooklyn is where basically so many people who either work at the New York Times, worked for the Obama or Clinton administration. It is like a liberal, progressive, highly educated neighborhood, and they were doing this practice there. So but mine was the most clear cut case of fraud. So I fill out the affidavit. This is in like April, May of 2024. Fast forward to a week before the Democratic Party convention, which I was a delegate for the convention, and I'm at, where I'm at? I'm at Target buying an air fryer, a red air fryer, and I had it in one hand, and I get like my phone starts buzzing the intercom, and it's this Russian lady saying that she has. It's like, I have a court document for Carlos, and I was like,
What?
yeah,
She
this
has a
like
what?
this Russian lady had a court, called my intercom and said she had a court document for me. And I was like, what is it? Like, what court document? And this was
Did you
right
get
after
served?
Eric Adams was indicted. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, this was right
So
after Adams was indicted?
yeah, so I was like very, kind of like just, worried about everything. We were a
Yeah.
week away from the convention, and she's like, you're being subpoenaed. That's what she said. And I was like, subpoenaed for what? And that was a terrible couple hours. A friend of mine, funny enough, her birthday was the next day. She ran into me at Target right as I was so white. I mean, I was like, it was crazy. My face literally. She said, "What happened to you?" My face became so, I looked like a real white Cuban. I'm Cuban American, but I look like a very white Cuban. Um, uh,
That's
so
hilarious, dude.
and she's like, "What happened?" Like, I'm being subpoenaed, and I was very very worried about this subpoena. I didn't know what it was for, and then I get home and like taped to my door is a subpoena to appear in the case against RFK Jr. And I'm like, all right, well, I wish someone would have given me a heads up.
Oh my
And
god.
basically, I tested, and it was at the first day of the convention. So in Chicago, on the first day of the convention, with Trump Tower as my view of my
Oh,
hotel
that's
room,
wild.
I testified against RFK Jr. And no one prepared me for cross examination. Can you believe this? So, anyways, I get cross-examined. They're like, well, they're like, are you aware that, that they, basically the firm, the consulting firm was doing stuff for the Republicans and Democrats. I'm like, it's New York, sure. And, they were not nice. The guys were not nice. I mean, I know they're not supposed to be nice, but I was not prepared to be cross-examined. I just told the truth because I'm very
Hmm.
honest. I said the truth.
That's helpful.
And yeah, and I mean, what
They
I tell
probably
people,
weren't ready for that strategy though. If they worked for the
no, it was a
RFK.
crazy strategy they weren't ready for. What's interesting is that I tell people I testified against RFK Jr., but it was not about the brain worm or the bear in Central Park.
Yeah,
I have
that
to
was.
preface that. And so it's funny is that he ended up getting kicked off the ballot anyways for both that and that he didn't have a proper residency in New York, and then he dropped out anyways. But anyways, that's
That's
my
a crazy
RFK.
story though. It's
And
good you
then the
said
next day,
something.
I run into Jack Schlossberg at the floor of the convention. I'm like, "Hey, Jack, I testified against your cousin, RFK Jr." And he's like, "I'm so proud of you. Great job."
That's cool.
So it was a funny, kind of crazy story. But months later, like many months later, maybe a year later, actually with a friend, went to the site of where the bear was left, and
Oh
and
really?
and
Did you
drank
pay
to
your
it.
respects?
We paid our respects. We drank wine to the bear because the story is that he allegedly was coming down from upstate, and a woman in front of him, which I don't believe. I think he killed the bear, but he says that a woman in front of him hit a bear, a baby bear, and he grabbed it, him and his friends, and put it in the back of the car to eat it later. And he was gonna freeze. He was gonna freeze it in his fridge. This guy, Maha, he was the Maha guy before Maha. Yeah.
What a
So,
weirdo.
but then he realized that he had to go to Peter Luger's for a dinner, and the bear would go bad in his car. He didn't realize that. So he decided to stage the bear being hit by a bike by dropping off the dead bear body, baby bear. I mean, could have been little bear. I just think of
Oh,
it all.
don't Maurice Sandak's little bear. I
Oh,
love that bear.
he would have eaten Little Bear. RFK
Holy
Jr.
shit.
would have eaten Little Bear. Yeah, it's really sad. I had a little bear. I had a little bear teddy bear, and it's very sad thinking of RFK just eating him. He would.
He would do it. He was a sociopath.
He would. And the Berenstain Bears, that show? He would have
Mm-hmm.
eaten those bears. If he was if instead of Goldilocks, it was him, he would have killed all the bears, the whole family of bears. It's really, he wouldn't have eaten the porridge, actually. He would have thrown the porridge out.
He
And
would
then
have come in. He would have come in with a. Yeah, no, that's
he
a
would
really
have
good bit.
he would have come with a bike and run them over.